Well, greetings again. This is Dr. Bill Wyatt, and I'm going to talk a little bit about making this Big Daddy arch and using it. It seems to be a lot of misunderstanding about how to use this arch. It's simple, it costs almost nothing to make, and you can do all sorts of things with it if you learn how to use it properly. So I wanted to do that before I leave this planet, and people learn how to use this large arch wire. So let's see if I can get that across today for you. I'll go ahead and touch here and we'll start. Now I use 3 different sizes of round stainless steel wire, and you get them in 14-inch lengths like this. Cut them half in 2. Each piece of wire will make 2 of these arches to fit in the mouth. And they use an 040, an 036, and then maybe an 030, something like that. But when you start off, you use it very cautiously, because if the person doesn't come back, it just keeps expanding. You can get all the lateral expansion you want out of this wire, and this expansion tilts the teeth out this way, makes positive torque in them, but that's not what you want. A lot of times you want to spread this out, but if you just keep going, it pulls the tooth in on the root side. Now I'm going to have to draw a little bit and maybe get to where you can understand what I'm talking about. If you want to expand these teeth, you can fix this wire. Now it does very little up here, and here it does a little bit, here a little more, and here a lot more back at the back of the mouth. And if you can't hook onto this one back here, you can make a deal and go back like that, and you can catch the second molar too in your expansion of this wire. Now here I've drawn the little extensions we put on the band, and it'll just carry this tooth out too, but you won't have much effect with the torque that you need to put in here on this tooth. It'll have a little bit of that effect just carrying from the other teeth, but it puts more force back here and less up here, and almost none in the front, as it kind of expands the arch in this fashion. Now, if you spread this out back here, a lot of times this will move back just a little bit in the front. In other words, you can broaden the arch and it'll do this. So you do get a negative movement when you bring it back here, and if you need to use that sometime. Now let's see what we got, an 036 or an 040. That's what we use most all the time, but you can use an 030. It'll give you some, but you need to make sure you got enough force to carry these teeth out. Now we make it where it goes back on the lower arch. We make a loop in this wire. You got to use a young plier. It's hard. That wire's tough to bend. You bend it like this, and then you mash it and get that final cut down like that. Now you tie that between the first and the second molar, and this has to be at least an 016 or an arch wire. Now I use 018 slots all the time, and you need a round arch wire that's pretty stout. Here, if you're going to pull these out, you have to have the strength go through that wire, and we run the big right in here, and you mash it down there. Now up above, we fitted in, we put a large deal on all of our bands, and you can hook it in that, and then you tie it to the other teeth like that. And here the upper and lower Big Daddy is tied in through the mouth. And if you want to expand these teeth, you make the wire, let me go back over here, you bend it out and you make it fit the molars, and you pull it back in over here. Now when you expand it, you pull these teeth and take the force, more of the force up in this area of the mouth, and that makes it widen it this area more than it will this back in the back here. It's a little more complicated than people think it is. Now that's bending that down like that, and then we would just cut that right there and mash that together. Now this is a one that I don't recommend using. You can widen the teeth out at the front, but then you've got to have this go away because it just brings them out to where they hit this other wire right here. So just forget about that one right there. That's not the one that we need. So you want to widen these teeth out. Just run the main wire out away from these teeth further, and you pull them out to the wire. So here we're going with the Big Daddy arch wire, and it's working. Now, you never, if you're going to do much expansion, you always work up to a rectangular arch wire in here, and you put the Big Daddy wire over the top of the rectangular wire. And the rectangular wire is what brings the roots of the teeth out. And I'm going to have to, this is where people don't understand that. Now, I'm going to have to show you. Now, this is just some more pictures of bending the lower deal in here. We take a large wire like that, just making it, bend it over something about the size of a broom handle or a little more. And then you bend this back in here and cut that off, and it's hard to get this down, and then you take that and put it in your plier, and you mash it hard, and that bends it in. That's just for this super one, but just forget about that. Just cut this, but then you run this back in the back side. Let me get in here and make this wire. I'm sorry. All right, we make the wire to fit like you saw at the very first of that. Now I'm going to have to draw the rectangular wire that you have to work up to get the rectangular wire in this thing to start with. And when you work up to that rectangular wire, I'm going to put it on a white basis over here. Now this is where understanding it is an important thing. Let me get a little deal here where I can draw. what happened back here? I need to draw with that. Okay. Oh, there we go. I have to have that little line in there to figure out where to go. So here's let's say we've got a lower arch, and we've got roots on this tooth coming down like this, like that. And we've got another one over on the other side of the mouth, similar. The roots are coming down like this. Now if we just push on this tooth, if you just put the wire over here and put this Big Daddy and pull on it, this tooth is in bone structure down around the tooth. The cortical bone, which is very hard, and the tooth is in that down about like that. And over on this side you have the cortical bone around the tooth. This goes down, of course, and cuts up like that. If we just pull on this tooth, it will rotate somewhere where it'll hit this bone right here, and this will tip the tooth in this direction, but it also pushes the tooth against this bone, and these roots want to move in this direction, and the crown moves in this direction if you just put the arch up there. Now if the tooth were leaning in this direction, you could pull it over there like that, and then you wouldn't need anything. But most of the time you need to bring it further out this way, and you need to bring the roots out too at the same time. So we're going to have to put buccal root torque in the rectangular wire that's fitting in this slot over on the other side. In other words, you're going to have to, if we've got a tooth that's setting like this, I can only draw one tooth at a time here, and we're going to bring this root out, this tooth out. We have the bracket and everything, and we fit it in here. Now you've got to do the arch wire, you've got to put progressive torque in it, and you'll have to look at my hands. Like if we want to move this tooth out in this direction, we're going to have to bend this wire where it's going to be like this, and we bend it down and put it into this slot. In other words, the wire might be like that. You bend it down, stick it in this slot, and that's making the crown. You bend it like that, then that wire will tend to bend it this way. It's going to put the crown going in this direction. The root then will be going in the proper direction if you bend it that way. So what we do, we catch the wire right behind the cuspid tooth and bend it down. So your arch wire, if you look at it just like this, it'll be bent down, and you're going to fix the ends of it, turn it up straight up and down, and you bend it to where the end is almost 90 degrees. Now you go like this, and it's going to tend to want to go down, and that'll make you hook it in here. It brings the root over in this direction. If you put this wire, this rectangular wire in here, and you don't put something to support it, the root will get against the bone here, and the crown will move in this direction. So you don't want that. So you have to support this with the Big Daddy wire. So we got the wire here, and it's bent up. And you wonder, what do I have to do to get this root over here? You can just say, I do this like that. Now stick this in here and it'll make the root go in that direction. But if you don't put something to support it, the torque will overpower the lateral expansion of the small wire and the crown will move in the other direction. So you bend it in like that. Now you put that in, and now you put the large wire in here. It'll bring this out regardless of this force in this wire here. So now you pull this, but this wire is pushing the root against it, and this one is pulling the crown, and now you expand the whole tooth, moving top and bottom, moving apart. And this is hard for me to get across to people. I've had some good wire benders and people that know a lot about orthodontics that don't realize what they've got to do to keep the tooth moving laterally. And you can pull that tooth out and it'll bring the cortical bone and the tooth out as long as you keep this crown level like that. If you see your crown moving this way, you got too much force over here, and you keep it. And if it's moving with the roots ahead of time, you've got more force in the torque than you have in the Big Daddy. So you want to keep the tooth level as it goes out over here against the upper tooth, which is in here. You want to keep these teeth level. If you see the leaning one way or the other, you've got to adjust the rectangular wire or the large wire that you're bringing it out with. And that's hard for me to get across to people. But if you will learn that, this large arch wire, I don't ever use anything on the inside of the mouth except a palatal separator or suture separator like that. It goes this way. Now the Big Daddy goes this way. It'll bring this in the front a little bit as it spreads the arch out like that. And that, I want that understood before people get in here and start using that wire. I never, hardly ever put anything on the inside of the mouth to push it. It's so much cheaper, quicker, better, and it does everything you want it to if you understand what it has. Now, one guy wrote an article, and he didn't put the expansion there. He said, well, you can't expand with a Big Daddy wire like that, but it'll do it, but you've got to put a rectangular wire underneath it doing this buccal root torque on it. And if you're going to do the upper one, I'm going to erase that one right there, and I'll make another one. And if the tooth is this way, the uppers have 3 roots on them, like that. And if you're going to push this, you have your wire sitting in like that. To make these roots go out, what do I have to do? Just put it up there like you're looking at it, and I would have to bend this wire this way. Now, so you would twist it from the back of the cuspid to the end down here. You just turn it like that, and you might have the end out here sticking straight down, and you bring it up, hook it in there, and it's going to put tilt like that in it. That will make this tooth go out, and it makes this one go in this direction, this one in this direction. Then you put the Big Daddy on there, and you pull them both at the same time, and you can carry this tooth out anywhere you want to. If you just gently pull it, it'll move the cortical bone and the whole tooth buccally, just straight up and down. It'll carry it out as far as you want it to in there. And so people have these, they need to do a lot of expansion. You can do it with this wire. I can expand anybody's mouth. I don't care how old they are or what nationality they are, how tough their bone is. I have not run into a person that you couldn't expand their arch like that. And this old bull that adults' teeth don't work, that's an untruth. You can expand, you can move adult teeth all over the place. And this is something that this is the new way of doing orthodontics. People think they can't do this because they were told that. I didn't get to go back to orthodontic school. I didn't know you couldn't do it. So I did it and it works. And so you can do it. And I've got hundreds of cases showing that it will work that way. So I'll back it up with everything I've got here. I've not done double-blind studies. You can't hardly do that during your lifetime. But anyway, you could expand the upper teeth. You got to learn how to bend the rectangular wire if you're going to do very much expansion. Now, if the tooth is tilted in other words, it's like that upper one, then you bring it out straight. But then if you don't do something, you'll be tilting the crown out, and the buccal root torque, will, the contacts or the teeth at the first, will separate in here. So you can tell when the tooth's moving bodily out. And so I hope we'll get this straight, and that people can understand if they're going to use this large wire, they need to, it's a lot more complicated than they think it is. And so they just put it on there without some. But you have to have a rectangular wire underneath it doing the root torque, and then this will do the crown torque. So thank you for watching, and I'm going to close out today, and I hope that this will get across to people so they will know what they can do with this. It is unreal, the things that you can do with it, and you don't need to put stuff in between the teeth in very many cases. So thanks for watching again. I'm going to close out, and we hope you'll join our group